Hello and thank you for your interest in Alibreva's language learning products. In this tutorial, we're going to create a deck of cards and review some of the product features, including voice comparison with a native speaker and highlighting cards, and how to move cards between folders. If you've just downloaded our product, you'll probably have a view of our product much like the view that you see on the screen. As yet, we have not added any folders or decks. To add decks and folders, click on the Edit button. When we click on the Edit button, we see two icons. Clicking on the icon on the left will add new folders. Folders are used to organize decks. Clicking on the icon on the right will add a new deck. Let's go ahead and click on the icon on the right. As you can see, we've added a new deck. The default name of the deck is New Deck, which is not particularly descriptive, so let's go ahead and rename it. Click on the Rename button. I'll click on the pencil. This will allow us to go ahead and rename the deck. Let's call it First Deck. Done. So we've added one deck. Now let's go ahead and add another deck. Again, click on the Add, and again, if we hit the Add Deck icon, we create a new deck. Let's rename this deck. Click the Rename button, click the pencil, here we go. Let's call this Deck 2. We're done. So let's click the Done button. We're done adding decks. Now you've seen we've added two decks. As yet, these decks don't have any cards. So what we have to do is click somewhere in the middle on the first deck. This brings us to the configuration screen that allows us to see the operations we can perform on the deck. At the top of the deck, we see the plus sign, add new cards. This is the operation that allows us to go and browse online repositories and then download the decks along with the audio. So let's go ahead and add new cards. Now we're seeing the selection screen. Selection screen, we haven't yet selected a deck. These decks are equivalent to the repositories, or they're the master decks. If you've ever gone to a store and purchased study cards, you probably have a master deck of 1,000 or plus cards, and you want to go and break off a handful of those cards that you're interested in studying. So that's analogous to what we're doing here. So go ahead and select deck. Now we see that we have a choice of languages. In a case here, let's say we're English speaking, and let's say we're learning Spanish. Click Next. This screen shows us the available decks that we can pull cards from. So right away we see the currently selected deck, month of the year. We see a short description of this. We see that it does not contain audio cards. Let's have a look at the second one. Again, this icon no longer has a red line through it, so we know that audio is available. This is an audio collection of 1,739 Spanish words pronounced by a male voice. Let's say we're happy with this, so we go ahead and select Done. Now we see a list of words in the repository. We haven't yet downloaded these words to our iPhone, so we're going to go ahead and browse these words and select those words that we want to study. So we can do a couple of things here. We can search the repository. Let's look for all words where the English word begins with the letter A. We could equivalently look at all words where the English word or the Spanish word begins with the letter A. So we could as easily do, let's say, all words where the English word begins with the letter D. The other way we can browse the repositories by relative frequency. So certain words, particularly those words that beginners are interested in, occur in high frequency rates. So if you're a beginner, you're probably learning words like the, to be, down, up. If you are more advanced in learning the languages, you probably want to use this online filter, which is going to filter the words down to less common words. Words like dusk, disgust, delay, drawer, dining room. Words that you wouldn't see in every text. So let's go ahead and select these words. As we select the words, we see the icon turns green. That tells us that when we download the words, or when we select to download, these words will be downloaded onto our iPhone. After we select five words, we'll be asked whether or not we want to go ahead and download the words. Go ahead and select the Get Selected Words. We're now downloading the words onto the iPhone along with the audio. So let's go ahead and click Done. Done. So now we see here that we have 5 familiar words. That's the default level. So let's go ahead and we're ready to study the words. So let's go ahead and drill down into here, and we see that we're presented with a flashcard-like view of the words. We can navigate this by moving moving our fingers across the iPhone left to right or right to left. We also can use the nav buttons, where we can click the left button or right button to move across the deck of cards. We can turn the card over by clicking on the card, or we can use the flip button down below, whichever we prefer. So one of the features that we might want to do is this deck has audio, so we might want to hear a native pronunciation of the word. So we go up here and we select the pronunciation or the audio key.
Cajón. Cajón. Cajón.
Pronunciations word.
Cajón.
Now, what we might want to practice pronouncing this word, and then we can hear our audio. We can record our voice as we pronounce the word, played back alongside the pronunciation of the native speaker. So let's go ahead and try this. Cajón, cajón, cajón.
Cajón.
So we heard, I heard my voice followed by the voice of the native speaker. So I could do this as often as I like. I could stand here and cajón, cajón, stand here and cajón,
Cajón.
cajón, cajón. So the other feature that we can do is if we double click outside of the card or single click outside the card, we see the card options. At the top is a list of our relative familiarity with the card. It ranges from the plus sign, which says this is a card I know. This light bulb, a light bulb goes off when I hear this card. If it rings bell or question mark, no clue. The second line allows us to highlight this card. And again, however you want to use these, it's, let's say Cajón, it's a card that gives me particular difficulty. I want to highlight this card in yellow. So I go ahead and highlight the card in yellow. We see that we can move off the card and it remains in yellow. And this is an indication to me that this card was particularly difficult for me to learn. So let's go through some of the other features. So far we're looking at words in English and trying to guess them and then flipping it over to see the Spanish equivalent. We can do the reverse of this. If we hit top, we then see the Spanish word first, and we have the opportunity to flip it over and see the English equivalent. So we can do this as many times as we want. We simply select the language that we want to view first. The other key feature here is that we may want to actually move these cards. So in this case, the Cajón is a card that's giving me particular difficulty. I want to move it to a deck of cards that have cards that I'm having problems with. So I'll go ahead and hit copy move. Here's the deck 2 that we created. So this will be the deck of cards that I use for cards I have a great deal of difficulty with. Let me go ahead and select move. So the card is no longer in this deck. If I go out here and and I go to deck 2, I can go and see now the card appears in deck 2. So I'll go back here. The other option I have is here's a card that I feel that I know and there's no reason for me to have in this deck, so I can go ahead and delete it. I'm prompted to make sure that I want to delete it. I go ahead and delete it, and then that card is no longer in the deck. So through using these features, we can create decks, populate the decks with cards that we find when we browse online repositories or master decks. Then we can move cards between decks the way we would if it was a handful of index cards and we were trying to categorize and break out sub decks according to or how well we knew of them, or what their categories are, or what cards we want on Wednesday, or what cards we want to learn on Tuesday. The products have many more features. I hope you enjoy learning the language. I hope this product helps you, and happy language learning.